The council chamber filled slowly. Delegates arrived looking tired, worried, or both. News of Battle Group 7's retreat spread through the station like fire. No one knew exactly what happened in the neutral fringe, but everyone knew the Techron warships ran. High Chancellor HFY arrived last. His usual confident stride looked forced. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a nervous habit his species displayed under stress. Council Speaker Yultam called the session to order. His ancient face showed relief mixed with concern. "We reconvene to discuss the Techron expedition's findings," Yultam announced. "High Chancellor, would you share Admiral Cax's report?" HFY stood. Around him, delegates leaned forward, eager to hear what 40 warships discovered. Admiral Cax completed his investigation of the neutral fringe. HFY began. His voice lacked its usual power. He located 7 human monitoring stations. All were automated facilities, scientific equipment only. Murmurs spread through the chamber. If that was all, why did the battle group retreat? However, HFY continued, Admiral Cax did encounter a human vessel, the Eternal Vigilance. Its captain provided additional information. What kind of information? A delegate asked. HFY's mandibles locked. Comprehensive data about our military forces, ship positions, crew details, tactical capabilities. The chamber erupted in conversation. Delegates shouted questions. Others activated communicators to contact their homeworlds. "Order," Yultam called out. "Please order." The noise died down gradually. "How did one human ship obtain this information?" the Moran delegate asked. "The monitoring stations," HFY said quietly. "They're not simple weather sensors. They're part of a much larger surveillance network." Taesung sat motionless in his seat. He hadn't spoken. Hadn't needed to. "Ambassador Taesung," Yultam said carefully, "would you care to comment?" Taesung stood slowly. The chamber fell completely silent. "Our monitoring stations operate exactly as designed," he said calmly. "They observe activity in the neutral fringe. This was their purpose 18 years ago. It remains their purpose today." "You're spying on us," HFY accused. "Monitoring," Taesung corrected gently. "Not spying. There's a difference." "What difference?" "Spying is covert action to gain advantage. Monitoring is observation to maintain stability." Taesung gestured to the chamber. "The neutral fringe exists because all species agreed it should. Our stations ensure that agreement is respected. By tracking our military vessels, by tracking all military vessels, every species, including our own." Taesung's voice remained pleasant. "Transparency benefits everyone." A delegate from the Harkon territory spoke up. "But you never told us about this capability. For 20 years you've been watching everything." "We never hid it," Taesung replied. "We simply didn't advertise. When the contact wars ended, humanity proposed the neutral fringe. We offered to monitor it. The council agreed. Everyone assumed we would use basic sensors." He paused. "We never said they were basic." Nervous laughter rippled through some delegates. Others looked angry. "This is deception," HFY said. "It's prudence," Taesung countered. 20 years ago, after the contact wars, trust was scarce. Species feared each other, feared us. The monitoring network provided security, not just for humanity, but for everyone. "How?" the Moran delegate asked. "No one could launch a surprise attack through the fringe. No one could mass forces secretly near another species' territory. The network prevented conflict by making aggression impossible to hide." Taesung looked around the chamber. 20 years of peace. No major wars. No invasions. The system worked. Yultam nodded slowly. "He's right. The fringe has been stable." "Because we were being watched," HFY said bitterly. "Because everyone was being watched," Taesung emphasized, "including us. Our own ships appear in the same tracking data. We hide nothing from ourselves." A young delegate from a minor species raised their hand. "Ambassador, what would have happened if the Techron battle group had attacked your monitoring stations?" Taesung tilted his head slightly. "Admiral Kyungmin would have responded." The chamber went very quiet. "How?" the delegate pressed. "Appropriately. No one asked for more details. No one wanted to know." HFY activated his personal communicator. A holographic display appeared above his seat. "I want to show the council something. This is the data package Captain Hana sent to Admiral Cax." The display filled with information, ship positions, fleet movements, detailed specifications for hundreds of vessels from dozens of species. Delegates stared at their own ships listed in the data. Some looked horrified, others angry. A few seemed impressed. This is what humans see, HFY said. Complete intelligence on all of us. Every military secret, every tactical plan. All observed and recorded for 20 years, someone whispered. HFY turned to Tae-sung. What's to stop you from using this information? Attacking us when we're vulnerable? You could destroy any species here. Tae-sung stood again. We could have done that 20 years ago. We could have continued the contact wars until we controlled the entire galaxy. His voice stayed calm, but something harder entered it. We didn't. We stopped fighting. We proposed peace. We built this council. Not to dominate, but to coexist. With this surveillance hanging over us, HFY said. With transparency protecting us, Tae-sung corrected. High Chancellor, answer honestly. In the past 20 years, has humanity threatened any species? HFY's mandibles clicked. No. Have we expanded our territory aggressively? No. Have we demanded tribute? Forced alliances? Imposed our will? No, HFY admitted. Then what exactly are you afraid of? Tae-sung asked. You fear our capabilities, but capabilities mean nothing without intent. For 20 years, we've demonstrated our intent. Peace, stability, cooperation. Until someone challenges you, HFY said. Until someone threatens the stability we all agreed to maintain. Tae-sung looked directly at the High Chancellor. You wanted to expand into the neutral fringe. Break agreements made after a terrible war. Change rules that kept peace for 2 decades. Yes, we oppose that. We will always oppose actions that threaten stability. Yultam stood. Ambassador Tae-sung, I must ask directly. How many monitoring systems does humanity operate? Tae-sung smiled slightly. Enough. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can provide. Some things must remain uncertain, otherwise someone will eventually figure out how to defeat them. A delegate from the Krell Empire spoke, voice shaking slightly. We remember the contact wars. We remember what happened to our blockade fleet. They disappeared. All of them. We never found out how. And you never will, Tae-sung said simply. Some mysteries keep the peace better than answers. HFY slumped in his seat. His forearms hung loosely. So we live under constant observation. Forever. You live under mutual observation, Tae-sung corrected. We watch you. You can watch us. Any species can request data about human ship movements. We'll provide it. That surprised everyone. You'd share your own military positions? The Miran delegate asked. We already do. Check your intelligence reports. Human fleet movements are documented. We don't hide. Tae-sung gestured to the holographic display still showing tracking data. The difference is efficiency. We're better at gathering information, but we're not hiding ours. Yultam looked thoughtful. You're saying the monitoring network benefits everyone? Yes, it prevents secret military buildups. Reduces paranoia. Makes war harder to start. Tae-sung sat down. 20 years ago, after terrible losses, we asked ourselves how to prevent future wars. The answer wasn't bigger weapons. It was better information. If everyone knows what everyone else is doing, surprise attacks become impossible. Unless you lie about your own capabilities, HFY said. We could, but we don't. Lies eventually collapse. Truth endures. Tae-sung folded his hands. High Chancellor, would you like to know where our fleet is right now? HFY looked suspicious. Would you actually tell me? Admiral Kyung-min's primary fleet is stationed in the outer reaches, 70 light-years from here. 16 capital ships. Current status, routine patrol. They've been there for 3 months. Tae-sung pulled out his data pad. I can provide exact coordinates if you want them. The chamber stared. Why would you tell us this? HFY demanded. Because truth builds trust. You know where our fleet is. You can monitor it. Verify it's there. Maybe that knowledge makes you feel safer. Maybe it doesn't, but it's honest. Yultam cleared his throat. I propose we take a vote. Should the Techron expansion into the neutral fringe proceed? HFY stood wearily. I withdraw the proposal. Shocked silence. You withdraw? Yultam asked. Yes, We need time to reconsider our position. HFY looked at Tae-sung. To understand the current reality better, Tae-sung nodded respectfully. A wise decision, High Chancellor. The council session ended quietly. Delegates departed, speaking in low voices. The energy from the original vote was gone. Fear had transformed into something else. Not quite acceptance, But understanding Vex Prime approached Tae-sung as the chamber emptied. "You played us perfectly," the High Chancellor said. "From the beginning." "I stated facts," Tae-sung replied. "You mentioned Kyung-min's name. One name. That was all it took." "Reputations have weight. Terror has weight," Vex Prime corrected. "We ran from shadows, from possibilities, from one ship and one name." The warning sirens screamed across every military base on Earth. Admiral Taemin stood in the command center watching the screens with cold eyes. 30 massive ships had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Each one looked like a floating city made of dark metal and glowing lights. "How long until they reach Earth?" Taemin asked. 6 hours at their current speed, sir," Lieutenant Hyun replied. The young officer's hands moved quickly across his console. "They're not hiding. They want us to see them coming," Taemin nodded slowly. "That was the first clue. An enemy who wanted you to be afraid rarely planned to fight hard. They expected you to give up." The communication systems across the planet suddenly activated. Every screen, every device, every broadcast system showed the same image. An alien creature sat on what looked like a throne. Its skin was pale blue and smooth. Its body was thin and tall. 4 arms folded across its chest. The face had large black eyes that seemed to look down at everyone watching. "Humans of Earth," the alien said. Its voice was translated into every language on the planet. "I am High Overseer Kalth of the Velkran Dominion. We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Thousands of worlds pay us tribute. Now it is your turn." Taemin felt anger rise in his chest, but his face stayed calm. Around him, the command center staff stopped working and watched the screen. "You will provide 40% of all resources you mine each year," Kalth continued. "You will give us samples of your genetic material for our archives. You will share all your technology with us. You will allow us to build bases on your planet. These are not requests. These are the terms of your survival." The alien leaned forward slightly. "You have 30 days to accept. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities from orbit. You will watch your world burn. Then you will accept anyway. Every species does. You are no different." The transmission ended. For a moment, silence filled the command center. Then everyone started talking at once. "Quiet," Taemin said. His voice was not loud, but everyone stopped. "Get me Ambassador Jiwon and the War Council. Now." 2 hours later, the command center conference room was full. Ambassador Jiwon arrived first. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. General Minho came next, a large man with scars on his hands from years of combat. Dr. Yuna rushed in with her tablet already displaying data about the alien ships. Colonel Doyen appeared silently in the corner as he always did. Counselor Suman represented Earth's government, her face tight with worry. "Options," Taemin said simply. "We can't fight that fleet," General Minho said immediately. "They have 30 ships. We have maybe 200 vessels total, and most are small patrol craft. The size difference alone—" "I didn't ask if we could win a fair fight," Taemin interrupted. "I asked for options," Jiwon spoke up. "I've been researching the Velkran Dominion. They're old, very old. They've been collecting tribute for thousands of years. But here's what's interesting. I can't find any record of them actually fighting a real war." "What do you mean?" Counselor Suman asked. "They show up with overwhelming force, make demands, and species surrender," Jiwon explained. "But there's no history of prolonged combat. No records of them adapting to resistance. They've never needed to." Dr. Yuna looked up from her tablet. "I've been scanning their ships. Their shields are incredibly powerful. Energy-based defenses that can absorb massive amounts of heat and radiation. But I'm not seeing heavy armor underneath. They've put everything into shield technology." "Because they never get hit," Colonel Doyen said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "If no one ever fights back, why waste resources on armor?" Taemin felt something shift in his mind. A plan was forming. What else? "Their ships are moving in perfect formation," Lieutenant Hyun added. "Mathematical precision. Beautiful, really, but also predictable. They're following exact patrol patterns. I could set a clock by them." "They're used to species that cooperate," Jiwon said, "or at least species that know they're beaten. They probably expect us to start negotiating any minute now." "Then let's give them what they expect," Taemin said. He looked at Counselor Suman. "Contact them. Request a meeting to discuss terms. Tell them we need clarification on their demands. Be polite, be scared even. Make them think we're considering surrender." "Are we considering surrender?" Suman asked carefully. No, Taman said. His voice was ice. We're buying time. Dr. Yuna, I need detailed scans of those ships. Weaknesses, blind spots, anything. Lieutenant Hyun analyzed their movements. Find patterns. Colonel Doyen, I want you to start planning insertion missions. If we can get teams onto their outer support vessels, we might learn more. And what about the fleet? General Minho asked. What do we actually do when the 30 days are up? Taemin stood and walked to the window. Outside, the night sky looked peaceful. Somewhere up there, 30 alien warships waited for Earth to kneel. He thought about every human who had ever fought against impossible odds. He thought about stubbornness, creativity, and the refusal to accept defeat. We're going to study them, he said. We're going to learn everything about them, and then we're going to take their entire fleet. The room was silent. Then General Minho started to laugh. It was a rough, dangerous sound. You're insane, probably, Taemin agreed. But they made a mistake. They gave us 30 days. They think that's enough time for us to be scared. They're wrong. It's enough time for us to get angry. Over the next week, Counselor Suman sent carefully worded messages to High Overseer Cloth. She asked questions about the tribute terms. She requested meetings to discuss details. She acted like Earth was seriously considering the demands. Cloth responded with bored impatience, but he answered. He was used to this. Species always asked questions before surrendering. While Suman talked, the rest of Earth worked. Dr. Yuna's science team studied the Velcran ships day and night. Captain Hana, one of the fleet's best tactical officers, led stealth reconnaissance missions in small, quiet ships. They got close enough to scan the alien vessels in detail. What they found was useful. The Velcrans were powerful, but they were also complacent. Their shields worked by absorbing and dispersing energy. Lasers and plasma weapons would be useless. But kinetic weapons, simple metal projectiles moving at high speed, those might punch through. The shields weren't designed to stop solid matter traveling at extreme velocity. Colonel Doyen took a team to a Velcran supply depot on one of Saturn's moons. They watched from hiding for 3 days, learning patrol schedules and security procedures. The aliens were careful, but they followed the same routines every time. They didn't expect threats. They were careless in the way that bullies often are. Taemin gathered all the information. He built a plan. It was risky. Many humans would die. But if they did nothing, humanity would spend generations as slaves. He would rather die fighting than live kneeling. On day 23, Ambassador Jiwon sent a final message to High Overseer Kolth. She requested one more meeting, a face-to-face discussion to finalize Earth's acceptance of terms. Kolth agreed immediately. He probably smiled when he did it. Another species broken, another world added to the tribute list. He had no idea what was coming. Captain Hana guided her small frigate through the asteroid belt near Mars. Her ship was running on minimal power, barely a whisper in the void of space. Beside her, Lieutenant Hyun monitored the sensors. Velcran patrol passing in 3 minutes, Hyun said quietly, though no one outside the ship could possibly hear them. Same route as yesterday. Same speed, Hana nodded. That was the 5th identical patrol in 5 days. The Velcrans were creatures of habit. They had their patterns and they stuck to them because patterns had always worked before. Why change what had succeeded for 10,000 years? Get the scans, she said. Full spectrum. I want to know what they had for breakfast. The patrol ship passed within 500 kilometers. It was massive compared to Hana's frigate, but it moved with slow confidence. The crew probably wasn't even paying attention. They were just following their route like they did every day. Hyun's fingers danced across the console. Got it. Sending data to Dr. Yuna now. Hana watched the Velcran ship disappear into the distance. They think they own space, she said. They move like nothing can touch them. Can anything touch them? Hyun asked. We're about to find out. Back on Earth, Dr. Yuna studied the new scans in her laboratory. She had barely slept in 2 weeks. The data was fascinating in a terrible way. The Velcran technology was advanced but specialized. They had focused everything on energy manipulation. Their shields could absorb incredible amounts of laser fire, plasma blasts, and radiation. Any weapon that relied on heat or energy would be useless against them. But their shields had blind spots. Physical matter moving below a certain speed could pass through. That was how they moved cargo in shuttles. And matter moving extremely fast with enough kinetic energy might overwhelm the shield's ability to deflect it. It's like armor designed to stop bullets but not swords. she explained to Admiral Tayman during the daily briefing. Except we're going to use really, really fast swords. Railguns, Tayman said. Kinetic missiles, exactly. Simple metal slugs accelerated to extreme velocity. No explosives, no energy weapons, just mass and speed. Their shields might not even recognize them as threats until it's too late. General Minho leaned forward. How many do we have? Not enough, Yuna admitted. But we have time to build more. Every military factory on Earth is working on this. We're making thousands of kinetic missiles. Simple design, easy to manufacture, cheap to produce. We can't match their technology, so we're going back to basics. Colonel Doyen entered the room, still wearing his infiltration suit. He had just returned from another reconnaissance mission to the Velcran supply depot on Saturn's moon. The depot is guarded, but barely, he reported. They have automated defenses and patrol schedules, but everything is routine. They've never been attacked, so they're not really watching. I could take it out with 20 people. How much damage would that do? Counselor Suman asked. It's their fuel depot for this entire region, Doyen said with a thin smile. Take it out and their fleet has to ration power or wait for resupply from outside the system. Either way, it would hurt them. Ambassador G1 was studying a display showing Velcran communication patterns. I've been analyzing their transmissions. They're not encrypted strongly. They don't think anyone would dare intercept their communications. I've learned a lot about their culture. Tell us, Tayman said. They're arrogant, but that's obvious. What's more important is that they're biologically weak. Low-gravity species. Their homeworld is barely half Earth's gravity. They're tall and thin because they don't need muscle mass. In hand-to-hand combat, an average human would overpower them easily. That explains the reliance on technology, General Minho said. Right. They've never needed to be tough because they've always had superior weapons. But here's the really interesting part, they panic easily. I found records of tributary species that attempted small rebellions. The Velcrans responded with overwhelming force, but their decision-making fell apart when things didn't go according to plan. They're used to winning. They don't know how to adapt when they start losing. Tayman absorbed all the information. The pieces were coming together. The Velcrans were powerful but brittle. They were advanced but predictable. They expected obedience and had no experience with real opposition. We can beat them, he said quietly. It won't be easy. We'll take losses, but we can beat them. What's the plan? Suman asked. Tayman stood and activated the holographic display. It showed the solar system with the Velcran fleet highlighted in red. Earth's forces appeared in blue, scattered and small by comparison. Ambassador G1 has arranged a final negotiation meeting, he began. A diplomatic ship will approach their flagship to supposedly finalize our surrender. That will draw their attention and position their command vessel exactly where we want it. While they're focused on the negotiation, Captain Hana continued, picking up the plan, the entire Earth fleet will be positioned behind the moon. They won't see us coming until we're right on top of them. Lieutenant Hyun pulled up tactical data. Their patrol patterns have a synchronized moment where all their outer ships are at maximum distance from the flagship. It happens once every 8 hours. That's our window. 17 minutes where their formation is weakest. Colonel Doyen's team will hit the fuel depot 30 minutes before we attack, Tayman said. The explosion will confuse them, make them think the attack is coming from the outer system. They'll turn their attention outward, and we'll come from behind, General Minho said, understanding dawning in his eyes. From the moon's shadow, from inside the system where they're not watching. Exactly. We hit them with everything at once. Thousands of kinetic missiles launched simultaneously. No energy signatures to give us away until it's too late. The missiles are guided, but basically just metal rods moving at 0.2% light speed. Their shields are designed for energy weapons. Let's see how they handle old-fashioned physics. Dr. Yuna brought up shield analysis. Even if their shields partially work, the kinetic impact will cause massive damage. And once we create openings, we send in fighters and boarding teams. Their ships are built to intimidate, not to resist hull breaches. What about their weapons? Suman asked. They can still shoot back. They can, Tayman admitted. That's where we'll take losses. But their weapons are energy-based, and we've been coating our ships with ablative armor and heat dispersal systems. We can take some hits. The question is whether they can take what we're going to give them. Captain Hana smiled. It was not a nice smile. They expect us to surrender. They think we're scared. They're about to learn that scared animals are the most dangerous. Over the next days, Earth mobilized completely. Every ship that could fly was armed and prepared. Pilots who had been flying cargo runs were given crash courses in combat maneuvers. The kinetic missiles were loaded onto every vessel that could carry them. Engineers worked around the clock installing the new ablative armor that might let them survive a few hits from Velcran energy weapons. Colonel Doyen trained his special operations team for the depot raid. They practiced the mission over and over until they could do it in their sleep. 20 soldiers to take out a facility the size of a small city. It would be the largest attack of its kind in human history. Ambassador Jiwan sent the final message to High Overseer Kalth. Earth was ready to discuss terms. They requested a meeting in 2 days. Kalth agreed immediately, his response dripping with satisfaction. On the night before the attack, Admiral Taemin walked through the docking bay where the fleet was assembled. Thousands of crew members were preparing for launch. He saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. They knew what was at stake. They knew some of them would not come home. He thought about making a speech, something inspiring, but he was not good with words. Instead, he simply said what he felt. "They think we'll kneel," he told the assembled crews. "They're wrong. That was enough." The diplomatic shuttle launched from Earth looking small and helpless. Inside, Ambassador Jiwan sat with 2 aides who were actually intelligence officers. They wore formal clothes but had weapons hidden beneath. Not that weapons would help if things went wrong. The shuttle had one purpose: be a distraction. "Velcran flagship acknowledging our approach," the pilot said. "They're granting docking permission." Jiwan nodded calmly, though her heart was pounding. She checked her watch. 40 minutes until the attack began. She just needed to keep Kalth talking for 40 minutes. High Overseer Kalth received them in a massive chamber aboard his flagship. The ceiling stretched high above, supported by pillars covered in glowing symbols. Kalth sat on his throne-like chair, looking down at the humans with barely concealed contempt. "Ambassador Jiwan," he said, "you have come to formalize your world's surrender. Good. The tribute will begin immediately." "We have questions about the terms," Jiwan said, her voice steady. "The percentage of resources, the genetic samples you require, the location of your bases. These are not negotiations," Kalth interrupted. "These are facts. You will comply or you will be destroyed." "We understand," Jiwan said, "but our government needs specific details to implement your requirements. For example, which resources exactly?" Kalth waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. "All resources. Mining, agriculture, manufacturing. 40% of everything," Jiwan pretended to make notes. She asked another question. Then another. Kalth answered with growing impatience, but he answered. He was used to this. Species always tried to negotiate at the end. They always looked for ways to make surrender less painful. He had no idea that behind the moon, the entire Earth fleet was moving into position. Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display. 200 ships, the entire strength of human space forces, hung in perfect silence. They had powered down everything except essential systems. No energy signatures, no communication, just cold metal waiting in the dark. "Time to Colonel Doyen's strike?" he asked. 12 minutes, Lieutenant Hyun replied. Taemin watched the clock count down. Everything depended on timing. Too early and the Velcrans would have time to respond. Too late and they might discover the fleet. The window was small. Far across the solar system, Colonel Doyen and his team approached the Velcran fuel depot. They had been in position for hours, waiting in the cold silence of space. The depot was a massive structure anchored to one of Saturn's moons, storing enough fuel to power the Velcran fleet for months. "Charges placed," whispered one of Doyen's soldiers over the communication line. "Confirmed," said another. "Detonators armed." Doyen checked his team's positions. All 20 were clear of the blast zone. "On my mark," he said. 3, 2, 1, execute. The explosions tore through the fuel depot. One charge might have damaged it. 20 charges placed at critical structural points obliterated it. The fuel ignited in a massive fireball that would be visible from Saturn itself. Secondary explosions rippled through the facility as storage tanks ruptured and automated systems failed. Aboard the Velcran flagship, alarms suddenly screamed. Kalth stood abruptly from his throne, his 4 arms spreading in alarm. "What is happening?" he demanded. A Velcran officer spoke rapidly in their language, then switched to translated speech. "The fuel depot. It's been destroyed. Massive explosions. We're detecting—" "Put it on screen," Kalth ordered. G1 watched the display appear, showing the fireball expanding across Saturn's moon. She kept her face carefully neutral, but inside she was counting. The attack was starting. She needed to keep them distracted just a little longer. Was that an accident? She asked innocently. Silence. Koth snapped. Battle stations. Find out what behind the moon. Admiral Taman gave the order. All ships launch missiles. Full spread. 200 ships unleashed their payload simultaneously. Thousands of kinetic missiles, simple metal rods with guidance systems and acceleration boosters, streaked toward the Velcran fleet. They made no sound in the vacuum. They produced minimal energy signatures. They were just mass and velocity. Physics in its purest form. The Velcran sensors picked them up 3 seconds before impact. 3 seconds to realize they were under attack. 3 seconds to understand that the threat was not energy weapons their shields could absorb, but solid matter moving at incredible speed. 3 seconds was not enough time. The first wave of missiles hit the outer patrol ships. The Velcran shields tried to deflect them, but the shields were designed for energy. The kinetic missiles punched through like bullets through tissue paper. Metal rods traveling at 0.2% light speed carried catastrophic momentum. When they hit, they didn't explode. They didn't need to. They simply transferred all their energy into the target. Hulls ruptured. Atmosphere vented. Ships that had never been damaged in 10,000 years suddenly had holes punched clean through them. All ships advance, Taman ordered. Launch second wave! The Earth fleet came around the moon like a swarm. They were small compared to the Velcran vessels, but they were many and they were angry. Another wave of kinetic missiles launched, targeting the ships that had survived the first strike. Aboard the Velcran flagship, chaos erupted. Officers shouted in their language. Alarms blared. Koth stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How? He said. How are they? Their weapons are kinetic, not energy-based, one of his officers reported. The shields aren't stopping them. We're taking heavy casualties. 7 ships destroyed, 9 more damaged. Return fire. Koth screamed. Kill them all! The Velcran ships began shooting back. Energy beams lanced out, powerful enough to vaporize asteroids. Several Earth ships were hit and destroyed instantly, flaring bright and then gone. But the human fleet scattered, using evasive maneuvers the Velcrans had never seen before. The humans flew like they were dancing, unpredictable and wild. Captain Hana led her fighter squadron directly at a Velcran cruiser. Target the damaged sections, she ordered, where the missiles already hit. Her fighters dove through the debris field, dodging return fire and destroyed ships. They focused on the cruiser that already had hull breaches. Their weapons, smaller kinetic cannons, hammered the weak points. The cruiser's shields were still working on the undamaged sections, but the breached areas were vulnerable. The cruiser tried to turn, tried to bring weapons to bear, but it was too slow. Hana's squadron tore it apart piece by piece, targeting engines and power systems. That's one less, Hana said with grim satisfaction. Lieutenant Hyun, coordinating the battle from Taman's flagship, watched the patterns. The Velcrans were powerful, but they fought like they expected to win easily. They didn't adapt. They didn't change tactics. They just kept doing what had always worked before. Admiral, their formation is breaking, Hyun reported. 3 ships are trying to retreat. The others are clustering around the flagship. Send Colonel Doyen's boarding teams to the retreating vessels, Taman ordered. Don't let them escape, and prepare the main assault on the flagship. Doyen's team, having destroyed the fuel depot, had been racing back toward the main battle. Their small, fast ships caught up to the 3 retreating Velcran vessels. Getting close was dangerous, but Velcran point defense systems were designed to stop missiles, not small craft flying erratically. Boarding tubes ready, Doyen said to his teams. Remember, these creatures are physically weak. Hit them hard and fast. The boarding tubes fired, magnetic clamps attaching to the Velcran hulls. Cutting torches burned through the armor. Doyen's soldiers poured into the ships wearing combat armor and carrying kinetic rifles. The Velcrans inside panicked. They had weapons, but they had never fought boarding actions. They had never faced enemies in close combat. The humans were shorter but much stronger, products of high gravity and evolutionary pressure. Hand to hand, it was not even close. One retreating ship was secured in minutes. The others followed quickly. Velcran crew members surrendered when they saw how easily their companions were overpowered. Around the flagship, the battle intensified. More Earth ships were destroyed, but they were taking down Velcran vessels with them. The humans fought with desperate intensity. knowing that failure meant slavery or death. High Overseer Kolth watched his fleet being dismantled. His people, the rulers of the galaxy, were losing to primitives. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. All ships focus fire on their flagship, he ordered, pointing at Taemin's command vessel. Kill their leader and they will break. The remaining Velcron ships concentrated their fire. Energy beams converged on Taemin's ship. The ablative armor held for a few seconds, dispersing heat, but it was not enough. Systems failed. Hull plating melted. Admiral, we need to evacuate. Someone shouted. Not yet, Taemin said calmly. Target their flagship. All remaining missiles. Fire everything. His ship was dying, but it had one last strike left. Every missile launcher released simultaneously. Dozens of kinetic missiles crossed the space between the two flagships. The Velcron flagship's shields absorbed the first few. The next ones got through, then more. The cascade of impacts overwhelmed the vessel's defenses. Holes appeared in the hull. Atmosphere vented. Power systems failed. Now evacuate, Taemin said, and his crew rushed to the escape pods. Admiral Taemin floated in his escape pod, watching through the small window as his flagship burned. Around him, the debris field stretched across space like a graveyard. Human ships and Velcron vessels drifted together in death, equal now in destruction. He had lost 63 ships, 63 crews who would never go home. But the Velcron fleet was broken. Captain Hana's voice came through the emergency communication channel. Admiral, are you injured? I'm fine, Taemin replied. Status report. 14 Velcron ships destroyed completely. 11 damaged and drifting, 5 attempting to flee. We're pursuing. The flagship is dead in space. The ambassador? Still aboard the Velcron flagship. We lost contact when the power went down. Taemin felt a cold spike of worry. Ji-won had played her part perfectly, keeping Kolth distracted until the attack began, but she was now trapped on an enemy vessel with no power and no life support. Get boarding teams to that flagship immediately, he ordered. Find our people. Already on it, sir. General Minho is leading the assault personally. Minho's heavy assault transport approached the crippled Velcron flagship. The massive ship was dark now, emergency lights flickering weakly through the holes in its hull. It looked less like a warship and more like a dying animal. Seal your suits, Minho ordered his Marines. No atmosphere in there. Watch for armed resistance, but remember these creatures are weak. Don't underestimate desperation, though. Wounded animals bite. The transport docked at a breach point. The Marines poured through, weapons ready. Inside, the flagship was chaos. Velcron crew members floated in zero gravity, some injured, some trying to organize defenses. When they saw the humans coming, most fled. One group of Velcron soldiers tried to make a stand. They fired energy weapons, but in the darkness and confusion, their aim was poor. The human Marines advanced steadily, their kinetic rifles punching through Velcron cover. The alien soldiers retreated after losing 3 of their own. They're not fighters, one Marine reported. They're scared. Keep moving, Minho ordered. Find the bridge. Find our people. Deep inside the flagship, Ambassador Ji-won and her 2 aides huddled in the conference chamber. When the power died, the doors had sealed automatically. They were trapped in complete darkness, their suit oxygen running low. Think they're winning? One aide asked. We're still alive, Ji-won said. That's something. Suddenly, light flooded the corridor outside. Human voices shouted in the distance. The sound of cutting torches echoed through the walls. Then the door exploded inward. Ambassador. General Minho pushed through, his armor scorched from weapons fire. Are you hurt? Just bruised dignity, Ji-won said with a weak smile. I assume we won? We did. Now let's get you out of here. They moved through the flagship toward the docking point. Along the way, they passed Velcron crew members who pressed themselves against the walls, terrified. They had never seen their fleet defeated. They had never felt fear like this. As they reached the bridge, they found High Overseer Kolth. He was alive but injured, one of his 4 arms hanging uselessly. 2 of his guards stood nearby, but they dropped their weapons when they saw the armed humans. Kolth looked up at General Minho with something between hatred and disbelief. This is impossible, he said. We are the Velcron Dominion. We have ruled for 10,000 years. You picked the wrong planet, Minho said simply. They brought Kolth to the transport, along with several other high-ranking Velcron officers. As they departed the dying flagship, Taimin's escape pod was recovered by a rescue ship. He transferred to Captain Hana's vessel, which would serve as the new command ship. The remaining Velcron ships that tried to flee were caught one by one. Without the fuel depot, they couldn't jump to faster-than-light speeds. Earth's fighters hunted them down, forcing surrender. By the end of the day, every Velcron vessel in the solar system was either destroyed or captured. Taimin broadcast a message to the surviving Velcron commanders. His face appeared on every functional screen aboard the captured ships. High Overseer Kolth came to Earth demanding tribute, Taimin said. He wanted 40% of our resources. He wanted our technology. He wanted bases on our world. He thought we would surrender because everyone always surrenders. He paused, letting the words sink in. Instead, we destroyed his fleet. We captured his flagship. We now hold him prisoner along with 2,000 of his crew. The Velcron Dominion sent 30 ships to intimidate us. Not one will return home intact. Across the captured vessels, Velcron officers listened in stunned silence. Now I will give you terms, Taimin continued. And these are not negotiations. You will provide us with complete data on your technology. You will give us the coordinates to your homeworld and all tributary worlds. You will remain prisoners until we decide otherwise. If you refuse, we will destroy you. One Velcron commander tried to protest. The Dominion will send more ships. You cannot fight the entire empire. We just destroyed your tribute fleet, Taimin said coldly. Send more ships if you want. We'll destroy those too. Or you can accept that you made a mistake. You came to Earth thinking we would kneel. But humans don't kneel well. We never have. He ended the transmission. Within an hour, the Velcron commanders began providing the requested data. They had no choice. They were prisoners in their own ships, surrounded by a species that had just proven it could kill them. Dr. Yuna received the technical data with barely controlled excitement. This is incredible, she said, reviewing the files. Faster-than-light drive technology, advanced shielding systems, energy manipulation. It will take years to understand it all, but this is more than we dared hope for. Can we use it? Counselor Sumin asked. Eventually, yes. We can reverse engineer their FTL drives within months. The rest will take longer, but we now have access to technology that would have taken us centuries to develop on our own. Ambassador Jiwan was interrogating captured Velcron officers, learning about the Dominion's structure. What she discovered was troubling but useful. They control hundreds of worlds, she reported to Taimin, all paying tribute. Some have been under Velcron rule for thousands of years. But here's what's important. Many of those worlds hate the Dominion. They only submit because they think there's no choice. What are you suggesting? Taimin asked. Word of our victory will spread, probably already spreading. We destroyed a Velcron tribute fleet. That's never happened before. Other species will hear about it. And they'll get ideas, Taimin said, understanding. Exactly. The Dominion's power is based on fear and inevitability. We just proved they can be beaten. That changes everything. In a holding cell aboard Hana's ship, High Overseer Kolth sat alone. His injured arm had been treated by human medics, roughly, but effectively. He stared at the walls, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. A human entered. It was Admiral Taimin, the leader of Earth's forces. You destroyed us, Kolth said bitterly. Your kind are savages, using kinetic weapons like primitives, fighting without honor. We used the tools that worked, Taimin replied. You relied on technology and tradition. We relied on adaptability. That's the difference between us. The Dominion will retaliate. You have signed your world's death warrant. Perhaps, Taimin said. But I don't think so. You see, we've been analyzing your fleet composition and your economic data. This wasn't a military fleet. It was a tribute collection fleet. You brought enough force to intimidate, not to fight. And now it's gone. Building a replacement will take years and massive resources. He leaned closer. But here's what really matters. We're going to contact every world you've subjugated. We're going to tell them what happened here. And we're going to offer them a choice. Keep paying tribute to a weakened empire or fight for freedom like we did. Kolth's eyes widened. You cannot. We can and we will. Your empire is old and fat and lazy. You've grown comfortable on the backs of conquered species. But bullies always fall eventually. They just need someone to hit back first. Taman stood to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and one more thing. You demanded tribute from Earth, 40% of our resources. I think that's a good number. We'll be collecting 40% of your salvaged fleet's technology. Consider it. Reparations. He left Kolth sitting in stunned silence, beginning to understand that the Velcran Dominion had awakened something it should have left alone. Outside, the Earth fleet regrouped. They counted their dead and honored their sacrifice. 63 ships lost, nearly 4,000 humans killed. But Earth was free, more than free. Earth was now armed with captured alien technology and hungry for more. The galaxy was about to change.